Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Victoria. It's lovely to have you here with us online today, and we're looking forward to that day when we can all be together again physically at our center. I've had a number of calls from people asking me when that's going to be because there's been mixed information that has come from the provincial government. One is about Easter services. And that's a bit confusing because we were told that they had to be held out of doors and then that some could be held indoors with a few people there. Um, anyway, we will not be doing an Easter service outdoors or indoors. A number of our people have said that they wouldn't be able to attend that day. Also, with the huge increase in the numbers of cases of COVID that we're having in British Columbia, I think it's likely that it's going to be a while before we can open up again, but we just have to listen week by week to Dr. Bonnie Henry. And as soon as I have some firm news, I'll let everybody know. So I just wanted to let you know that. And I would like to invite Reverend Jennifer to do our opening treatment today. Jennifer?
Thank you, Reverend Carrie. I'd invite everyone to go within and know with me the presence of the divine is in, through, and as everyone here. There is a divine power, divine wisdom, divine love. Feel within our heart, that single eye of the heart, the eye that's free of judgment, free of reaction, and knowing the truth that all is God. When we react and feel hurt, lonely, we suffer through our own judgments. We know there's a truth that cuts right through power and love. When we align ourselves with the nature of God, that self-sustaining power that lasts through eternity, that same power and love exists within each and every one of us. And when we forget, we get caught up in the material world, I hear a voice in my heart that says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. The presence of God, the stillness within. Die to the present moment, every moment we live. Let it go as the present moment moves into memory. There is no power in memory unless we give it power through reliving memory. As we know this truth, we can move forward into each now moment, clear and free of all encumbrances, all illusion, all reaction, all anger, all pain. We bask in the kingdom of heaven. When we set this as our intention, it comes in every moment, its own fulfillment. And as we practice the presence, practice peace, practice love, our life transforms. And I am grateful. And I give thanks for this truth, this power within me. It moves me forward into a brand new moment. Every moment. I give thanks. And I release all attachments and move forward with ease and grace. Thank you, God. So it is.
And so it is. And Darlene is now going to bless us with another piece of music. Thank you for doing this on Sundays, Darlene. It just adds so much to our services.
Oh, thank you, Carrie. My pleasure to be able to share music with you all. All right, here's a song for us we can all sing together. Thank you for this day. The words adapted by Karen Drucker from the Native American Church. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for my life, Spirit. Thank you for my life. Thank you for my life, Spirit. Thank you for my life. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful life. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful life. Thank you for our peace, Spirit. Thank you for our peace. Thank you for our peace, Spirit. Thank you for our peace. Our healing, our healing, our healing peace. Our healing, our healing, our healing peace. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you, Darlene.
You're welcome.
Thanks for this healing day, for this wonderful day, for this spring day. I think just moving into springtime is just a great uplifting thing for each and every one of us. So, my talk this morning is called The Way of Passion. And typically, when we think of passion, we might think about love, romantic love, or even this time of year coming into Easter, the passion really is referencing the crucifixion of Jesus and the resurrection. But it's not about those things today. What it's about is um, that great enthusiasm, that excitement that we feel when something really moves us, something that we can't really explain, but something that motivates us to just go beyond anything that we thought we might ever do. And it can come to us in a variety of ways. Sometimes there's an intermediary or one or two who kind of push us forward, and we might at first resist and say, no, 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 I'm not going to do that. That's not for me. And as they keep pushing and as they keep talking to us, something starts to light up within us. And as that light starts to get to grow bigger and bigger, we start to feel that passion, that enthusiasm, and we might leap into it. And there are other times where it's a divine calling, where we just feel compelled to do something. It might be something we never thought we could do. And I think that this happens at different times in our lives, where we move from one thing to the next. And then all of a sudden there will be that bright idea that comes one day that latches onto us and takes hold, and we just can't say no to it. And I was thinking about it this week when I was thinking about about my decision to get into ministry. I was in Monterey, or near Monterey, at Asilomar, where we had our annual Centers for Spiritual Living conferences each year. And I had been listening to various amazing speakers in the morning, and I'd been to Asilomar several times. And I decided I needed to go down to the beach. Something was calling me down to the beach. And I found in Monterey in the summer, it's chilly and there's usually fog rolling in. And so I found a spot where there were a couple of rocks where the sun was hitting them. And I wedged in between two big rocks that were quite warm and just sat there. And all of a sudden I heard this voice saying, you know, you're going to be a minister. And I was like, what? Who's that talking? And you know, do you have the right person here? As much as I felt connected to God and as much as I loved my spiritual teachings, it never occurred to me that I was going to become a minister. And there was no turning back from that. And then I recall one day being at a spiritual function with about 200 other people. They weren't ministers. There were a few ministers there, and I was seated next to one whose name is Sherry Brandt, and she was the minister at the Center for Spiritual Living in Vancouver at the time, and we're now talking about the year 2000, I think. And I didn't know Sherry. I mean, I had met her just briefly, but she leaned over to me and she said, "I hear you're going to be a minister." And I said, yes, I am. I mean, at that point, I had made the commitment that I was going to go into ministerial studies. And I'd been a practitioner at that point for many years. And she said, why? and I said, well, I just had this calling. I had this presence. You know, when I was at Asilomar, it just came to me. And she said, do you have any idea what ministry is like? And I said, only what I have observed from, you know, ministers that I've known. And she said, there is nothing more difficult. There's nothing more challenging. She said, there's nothing more exhausting that you can do with your life. She said, is there anything else that you can do? And I said, well, there are lots of things that I can do, but this is what is calling me. This is where my passion is. You know, this is what excites me. This is what gets the juices flowing. And she said to me then, in other words, you can't not be a minister. And I said, that's right. I can't not be. And so when we have a calling that is so profound that we can't not do it, then it's something where we know we need to go forward, no matter the warnings. And I have to say, there have been many times in my life where I've had opportunities come my way that have excited me, and people have said, you're crazy, you know, you must be smoking something. That's impossible. And yet the passion in me has been so great that I have absolutely had to take hold of it and do it. And the wonderful thing is, when we answer that call, we know that we are supported. We're supported all the way by God. Now, there can be intermediaries who can get that passion flowing for us if we don't have it. And I had a wonderful example of that this past week. And it's a story, and I'm going to share it with you. And I thank David Call for sending it to me. It was a TED Talk. And it is such a wonderful example of how others can get that passion going until it becomes our own, but also how we know we are completely supported by God along the way. And that this divine presence is there, just in charge of every single moment, no matter how difficult something might seem. And so this is excuse me, a story about a doctor named George, excuse me. Sorry, I'm going to take a drink of water here. George Lombardi. George Lombardi had spent a number of years in Africa. He was a young man. He was 30 years old, and he was a doctor. And he was interested in infectious diseases, particularly tropical infectious diseases. And so he went to Africa, where he studied, where he did a lot of research. And he moved back to New York. He had a wife and two children. Moved back to New York and opened a practice there. and he and his wife were getting settled into their home. They were still unpacking boxes. He was going to his office every day, and he said he didn't have any patience at all. He said he was basically sitting watching for the phone to ring, hoping that the phone would ring, and nothing was happening. And one Sunday morning at home, while he was unpacking, the phone rang, and he picked it up, and it was a woman on the line, and she said that she needed him to treat someone who was very, very special. She said it was a Nobel laureate, and this person was very, very ill. And he said, well, why would you be calling me? And she said, because somebody told me that you know a lot about weird things. So he said, well, what is it? And she said, well, I'm going to put two doctors on the line from India. She said, the patient is Mother Teresa. And so he was quite taken aback. The two doctors came on the line. They talked for an hour, and at the end of their discussion, they decided that he was indeed the right person to go to treat Mother Teresa. And the woman who had initiated the call was a nun, and she said, "We can get you on a Concorde tomorrow afternoon for the first leg of the flight." And he kind of gasped, and he said, "Well," he said, "that's not possible." He said, I've been unpacking," and he said, "I unpacked my passport and it expired 3 months ago." And she said, "Meet me tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. I'll pick you up, and we'll get your passport." And it was as if he couldn't say no. Everything was happening so quickly. And so the next morning at 7 a.m. he went down, he met her, and she drove to Rockefeller Plaza, where the passport office was located. And this is 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. They went in, and within 15 minutes, he had his passport. Everything had been prearranged. And then he needed a visa, and she took him to the Indian consulate, which was nearby. And his visa was placed into the passport right away. They still had a few hours to spare before it was time to go to the airport. So she said, "I'm going to take you home, and I will pick you up at 11 o'clock. So she took him home, and he completed what he needed to do at home. And at 11 o'clock, she was there. He got into this rickety old station wagon, and in the back seat were 5 nuns squeezed tightly together. And they all had little gifts wrapped in burlap and string for him to take to some of the sisters that they knew, who were part of Mother Teresa's mission in Calcutta. And I mean, he was just kind of stunned by all of this. And to hear him tell the story, if you want to look it up, it's really, really quite wonderful, and it's quite funny as he describes it. Anyway, they get to the airport, excuse me, and all 6 of them, the 6 nuns and Dr. George, get out of the wagon. They're parked, and they go into the airport. And they go to the place where the Concorde is going to depart. And then the head sister turns to him and says, "Now, you don't have a confirmed seat on the Concorde. You're on standby, but we're going to try to do something about that." And so all of the nuns went along the line of people who were waiting to check in, and started to talk to those people, asking them if they would give up their seat on the Concorde for Dr. George so that he could get to Calcutta. And the first person said no. And the second one, they were really working on him, and they were, telling him, this was for Sister Teresa, and that he had to get there, and that he could save her life. And finally, the second person in line said, "Okay, I'll give up my ticket." And so Dr. George got on the plane and the Concorde, and off he went. And 24 hours later, he was in Calcutta, where the temperature was 100 degrees Fahrenheit and the humidity was 100%, and where he switched to socks and sandals, and off he went to the little hospital where Mother Teresa was a patient. He went in, and she wasn't really very lucid. She really was close to dying. And so he ordered a lot of tests, and he didn't really know what it was that was going on, but because of his uh, specialty, he was hopeful that he could find exactly what it was. And something interesting happened 3 days later. The test results all came back, and she didn't have any kind of an infectious disease from some tropical country or from India, which some might consider to be tropical. Um, and so he went through her medical history again and again, and all of a sudden it dawned on him that she had a pacemaker, and he had a feeling that she from this pacemaker. And it happened that on that very same day, the Vatican sent their top doctor to Calcutta to see Mother Teresa as well, because they thought really they had the best doctor on the planet and they'd better send him in to have a look at her. And he said it's malaria. And anyway, there was a press conference, and Dr. Lombardi um, describes the press conference, and he says there is the Vatican doctor wearing his designer suit, his Hermes tie, his Gucci loafers, and he's saying this is a clear case of malaria. And he said he was standing there in his, scuzzies with his sandals with socks on, and he said it is not malaria. It is an infection that she has from a pacemaker. And the doctor from the Vatican started making fun of him and belittling him. And the two doctors who were the primary physicians for Mother Teresa were there. And Mother Teresa had said to Dr. Lombardi, don't ever, ever do anything to upset my two doctors, because they're the ones who look after the people in my mission. And so he conferred with the two doctors, as did the doctor from the Vatican. And the two doctors said that they trusted Dr. George. And so the doctor from the Vatican left in a huff. And so anyway, then Dr. George told the two physicians that they needed to remove the pacemaker and put in a new one. And they said, but no, we can't do that. We don't know how to do that. You have to do that. And he said, well, I've never done that before. And they said, well, you're the one who has to do it. And so he thought about it. And at this point, 5,000 pilgrims had gathered outside this little hospital, and they all had candles and they were all praying. And so Dr. George decided that he would do the surgery. And he removed the little box, and there was a catheter that was attached to it that was in an artery, and it would not budge. He could not get it to move. And he kept trying, and he knew that if he pulled it, that it could mean instant death for Mother Teresa. And so he said he knew nothing to do but to pray. And so he prayed to Mother Teresa, for Mother Teresa. And he said, as he did that, all of a sudden, the catheter came loose and came out. And so her healing journey began, and he was going to leave, and she was conscious and begged him not to leave, because no one could do intravenous for her, because she was such a tiny thing and her veins were so tiny. And it just happened, as life does and as God gets in charge of things, that happened to be a specialty of his, to be able to insert needles into very, very tiny veins. And so he stayed with Mother for 2 weeks and did this. And after 5 days, she was sitting up in a chair and she was eating and she was regaining her health. And so he then returned to New York to his family, resumed his practice, went on with his life. And Mother Teresa lived for another 8 years. And I thought, what a stunning example this is of how what seems to be impossible is not impossible at all. When sometimes other people have to have the faith for us that things will work. I mean, imagine having your passport expire, and the next morning in 15 minutes you have a passport, and a few minutes later that you have a visa, and that you get to the airport and somebody gives up their seat on the plane so that you can have a confirmed seat. I mean, all of these things that happened. And of course, this was back in 1989 when the Concorde was still in existence. But the thing that I always feel is, that when passion is inviting us to do something new, what is it that you can't not do, but that you might have been denying? And he was denying that these things could happen. He just didn't think it was possible. And yet, one by one, all of the obstacles were very quickly removed. And the fact that when he prayed to Mother Teresa, for Mother Teresa, and that instantly this catheter came loose is amazing. And we can only know when these things happen that there's a much higher power at work. When a higher power intervenes, everything unfolds in perfect order for us. Was it a pacemaker or was it malaria? I mean, how many people would actually have the courage to stand up to the best doctor at the Vatican and tell him that he was wrong? But Dr. Lombardi did that, and he stayed with it. So even when another's passions push us in directions that we never thought we'd take, that passion can become our own. I mean, he became passionate about diagnosing the problem with Mother Teresa and about treating her and about how to do that. And when this happens, we can one day look back and know that God was truly at work here, that there was a much higher power that was totally in charge. We were just guided, we were directed along the way to do that. And I remember many, many years ago, Wayne Dyer said, when you're enthusiastic, nothing seems difficult. Absolutely nothing. There are no risks. Dramas become meaningless. Money isn't an issue. You know that you have the strength and the smarts, and the rules laid down by others have no bearing on you whatever. When you are enthusiastic, I mean, how many times in your life have people said to you, that's not possible. You'll never be able to do that. I don't know about you, but it sure happened to me a lot. And nothing would stop me. At that point, it became unstoppable. And, people used to say, you've got miracles happening all around you. And I think I've said before, I had a plaque on my desk that said, don't expect miracles, rely on them. And it's in those early days of something new that it's like when we accept the call that magic happens, that absolutely everything that we need to come into place comes into place. And I could do hours of stories around that, which I'm not going to do today. But just a reminder that if there is something calling to you, and the thing is, it can happen at any time. It is never too late for someone to knock at your door. It's never too late for the phone to ring, where somebody has an idea that you might think they're out of their mind, and yet there's something in you that starts to stir. There's an excitement that starts to build, that starts to grow. And as that builds and grows, there's something in you that says, yes. And you have to say yes to it because you know that it is yours to do. And you know that this is God calling. This is a divine presence that is going to guide you along the way. And the thing is that sometimes almost always when these things happen, it's kind of scary. We start to think, well, I don't know if I can really do that. What if I fail? What if this is all wrong for me? I know somebody, an older person, who constantly says to me, if I knew how long I was going to live, I might try something like that. Well, somebody who's 20 could say something like that. We don't know that. We don't know, but I think I believe that as long as we're answering the call, as long as we're doing what we're really deeply passionate about, that life is extended for us, and that we can continue to do the work that we love to do, that work that keeps those juices flowing, that keeps us excited, that keeps us wanting to get up in the morning and to jump out of bed and to get going, to get a good start on everything that we're going to do that day. And it is not too late for anyone at any age. The question simply is, do we have the courage to do what Dr. Lombardi did, the courage to just go with it, to know that there is something magnificent that is happening for each and every one of us, and to get out of our heads and into our hearts and say a big, big yes, and then see where our passions will take us. And just know that you have God in your hip pocket. And with God in your hip pocket, there's absolutely nothing that you can't do. And so it is. So I bless you all. And I thank you for being here today, for listening to the story, for getting in touch with your own passion, knowing that we all have this within us, and we just need to sometimes waken it up. And I invite you, if you, if you were here with us in person, we'd be passing a basket right now. If you would like to make a donation to our center, excuse me, you can do that simply by e-transfer to donate@cslvictoria.org. Or you can go on our website at cslvictoria.org and donate by PayPal if you'd like to do that. We so appreciate everything that you give, not just in monetary ways, but the volunteer work that you do. You know, your time, your talent, your treasure, all of those things are what keep us going during these times, and which will keep our center open for us when we're ready to get together again. And hopefully that won't be too long that we can do when we can do that, and when we can feel completely safe in every way. So I just bless you all, and I invite Reverend Joanna to pray us out today.
Thank you, Reverend Carrie. And so I know that this love, this passion, this joy that is our God-given gift resides in the hearts of each one of us. It is the power that infuses our lives, that enables us to reach out and do and be far more than we ever imagined we could be. Spirit, universal consciousness, God, whatever we choose to call it, is that infinite source that is ever available to us in every moment of our lives. And so as we go forward into the coming week, let us hold the truth of this talk of Reverend Carrie's in our hearts, that we rely on miracles, that miracles are the essence of our lives. And these miracles are not unusual. They are everyday occurrences. For Spirit guides us, guards us, protects us, and leads us in ways that we cannot even imagine. So let us remember this lovely story of Dr. Lombardi's adventures with Mother Teresa, thinking of it as a story that is a reflection of these everyday miracles that occur as we place our trust and our faith in Spirit, in God, in that power that is without limits. That power is the power that exists within each of us and is the essence of our lives. Let us hold that knowledge in our hearts as we go forward to greet this beautiful spring week leading up to Easter. Thank you, God, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Joanna. And I bless you all. And for those of you who would like to stay online, we're going to do a prayer circle.